Hello peoples of the internet, and welcome to week 2 of Industrial Rallycross, where today we have a Type D Bluebird bus. This is the rear engine version, and I'm getting so messy into this first corner. Well, it's not the first corner, but one of the first, and we're finding a lot of understeer in this. Almost tipped it over even. It's fairly easy to tip this thing over. On relatively flat terrain I should be fine, but it's best to always be careful with it. And I'm getting a lot of understeer. If it had less understeer it might not be so problematic, but I can feel the understeer slowing it down. I could try and turn the wheel more, but then there's getting it straight again and all the issues associated with that, as well as the likelihood of it tipping over, if that's even a word. So try and brake into here. I can somewhat use the brakes to steer it. There's not as much weight on the rear as there perhaps could be, although it is still a rear engine bus, and we have kind of awkward weight distribution. I believe leaf springs on the rear as well, so far from the most advanced suspension system in the world. But it gets the job done. To be honest, with HGVs, leaf springs don't seem to hurt the performance as much because they have so much size and weight behind them anyway. It is actually behind this in this case though, because of the engine mounting location, and I completely messed that up. First lap was okay, second lap was okay until that happened. Now third lap hopefully can be good. So we've got to try and get around. Coolant is apparently overheating. I might have smashed a radiator or something. And the piston wings are damaged. Well, I did get one okay lap from it at least. But I'd be slightly surprised if this even gets to the end of a run now. I'm not sure what happened, but something's wrong. Maybe it's just a appallingly designed bus, but I've driven it before and it hasn't overheated or anything of the such. So I can only guess it's just weak in certain places, and I'm hitting one of the places where it's weak, which is annoying really. Is that my rear bumper? Did this even have a rear bumper? Anyway, we're across the line, and it's slower than the other vehicles, as is to be expected. It's a school bus, and we're on the outside of it. As you'll see, it's a school bus, but we do have some bumper gone walkies, if I can even put words together. I'm guessing that's the radiator there, and I've knocked the side on a bump or something, and that's took it out, and then it started overheating. We also have one smashed window on the side. I don't think any of the others are smashed, just that one, which is odd. And we have some exposed circuitry, just what you want. Safety, y'all. All our lights still work. We've also lost our front bumper. It did surprisingly well for its size, I have to admit, but it's a smoky mess at the moment. I'm actually surprised I got it to the end though, given at the first of that lap, first part of the third lap, it was basically collapsing on itself. It did okay at holding together. Looks like we have another problem. The actual boot thingy is opening. I'm not sure you can call it a boot. Would you just call it an engine cover? Either way, it's not held in as it should be. And we're going to not quite tip it over. Although I think we have broken the suspension. There's something more to break. Next up we have the Legran Lux Wagon, or estate as we'd call them in the UK, with a pair of rear facing seats. Well, a bench really, but I imagine it's sitting 2 people. And I thought it would be interesting to see how this would do. Admittedly it's not really a people mover, but it's got more seats. It's got 6 seats at least, so I decided I could classify it as a people mover. Now it has got a V6 in here, so it's got reasonably solid performance, and the cornering, it feels far less understeer than the bus despite being front wheel drive. But then the Legran was never a nightmare to drive. The Covet does understeer more than the Legran to my knowledge, so that's something on its side. It's not a sports car, remember, but we have still got some decent power here, and we are getting it round the track. I feel quite smooth. Maybe it's just me imagining it, but it does seem to be getting good smooth corners out here. And I'm no driving expert or anything. I don't really know how to drive that well, so you know, I'm easily pulling times through. even 2 laps with no problems at all. Maybe I've taken a slightly worse angle around the corner or something, but I weren't hitting anything, and I believe this is a immaculate car. I did have an off back there, but in the reality of it, it's not doing too bad, although I feel like something may have been damaged. Maybe I've burst a tyre, because it is not handling as it used to. I think I got that checkpoint. I will hopefully get this to the end. It can be a very temperamental car though, the Legran, that things just break. Okay, so I don't think we're going to get this one finished, so I'll just have to leave it here, because the steering axle is completely gone, and if I get it to the end, it'll be a terrible time now. Still, it's got a very solid time for a front wheel drive, and other than the axle oddly braking, there's absolutely no damage to it. Just something in the entire front end of the car has gone, and there's not much I could do. I managed to get it onto the grass, but it was a struggle at that. Here's just some evidence as rear seats. They've got flowers on them at the moment, but they are rear seats there. And I like this vehicle, I just wish it was a little tougher. It did beat the ETK series with its front wheel drive driveline, just show you the engine. Wow, they mount these bonnets on solidly. There we go, there's our engine in our Legran. And overall, I think it did okay. Next up we have an extended passenger Vanster thing. It's basically a Vanster with seats in the back and a slightly longer tail. That's the easiest way I can describe it. I believe it's got the V8 standard, fairly decent performance engine. Although not the most powerful in the world, it will get something moving quite nicely. And we are getting round. This has a surprising number of similarities to the Legran, I have to admit, in the way it handles. There's maybe a little more understeer, but it handles very, very closely, despite being rear wheel drive, which is strange. But I'm not complaining, because that Legran was a nice vehicle. Thankfully this is probably a little tougher. The rear suspension doesn't feel as firm as it might be in a standard Vanster, because it does have the seats on it, and it's a little softer because of that, but I'm doing well here. We do get a beam navigator also, or whatever they call that GPS thingy, which is always a nice little extra to have. Helps me avoid getting lost, even though there's checkpoints everywhere. If you're as much of a fool as me, you can still find a way to get lost in all of it. And we're having very solid runs. This and the Legran have a surprisingly similar amount of handling characteristics. And it's going reasonably quick. Remember, this is a van as well. We're matching up with the ETK I-Series base model fairly closely, but in a huge passenger van. This is not at all bad for what it is. And we can pull through the corners well. I just wish it had a little less understeer, exactly the same complaint I had with that Legran we've just done. And I'm flying off the track a bit, but it is getting round. And hopefully we can get around here. Yes, that was a good corner, I could feel that. And 33. That's good. I believe that's actually faster than the ETK. Okay, so we have beaten the ETK, but it's within 0.15 of a second, so it's not the hugest of differences. But still, it proves how capable a ladder-framed van can be. And I look forward to taking more sporty variants of the Vanster around the track. We do have some damage on the front there. That might have been done after the end of the run, admittedly though, and it's overall fairly immaculate. This is the reality of a nice handling car, it just doesn't get smashed up as easily. Okay, so next up we have what I believe they call the Type C bus, this particular variant being the Derby edition. The other bus only had the one standard school variant, but this is a higher power version of the bus. There's not really many ways you can describe it. It's a more powerful bus, and most of it is probably the same. This, I believe, actually uses a realistic engine though, and not thrusters, so it does struggle to put the power down more. Either that or it's a lot heavier. It feels heavier, that's for sure, but less likely to tip over. And what have I done here? Something's a bit stuck. Thankfully this is fairly solid, so a small knock or bump isn't going to do it that much damage. I have to say it feels incredibly slow. Maybe it's not, but I remember the other bus really punched above, or should that be below, its weight, because these buses are not light vehicles. They're incredibly capable of moving a lot of people though. Not my choice of transport in the idealised world, but not everyone lives in the idealised world. We've taken over a minute, we can beat that, I know. The brakes are very effective though, compared to the speeds it is going at, so the hardest thing for me is perhaps learning that I can trust the brakes, learning that despite being a heavy vehicle, it really can stop its weight. And we're getting a kick of understeer there. I'm flooring it, by the way. I'm not lifting off around these corners, it's just slow, and there's no real way you can get around that. It's probably slower with students or children or whatever you call them in the back. Yeah, I forget what the name for people who go to school. Anyway, we are getting decent speed around this corner by the bus's standards, and we've beaten a minute, and I broke stupidly early there. Hopefully I can fix it. I might not even have to brake at some of these corners though, I'm going so slowly. Yeah, I didn't have to brake there. I just get it in my head that I have to brake with whichever vehicle I'm using, although this you're going so slow you just don't have to brake. And I think that's an idea I need to get into my head, that I don't need to brake with this. Although the corner after this one is a very nasty corner, I don't think I'm going to have to brake for it actually. I'll give it a try, it might backfire horribly at me, but we are getting round. No brakes at all, and we've got round there. So we've set a decent final lap. Slightly better than the other lap, just by avoiding braking. And here's the exterior of the bus. I don't believe we've lost bumpers. I believe this particular variant didn't come with any from standard. The doors have also been oddly chopped. We can open them though. You can do this on the other bus as well, but I didn't quite show you that. We also have working lights and stuff. It's a very nice vehicle to just mess around with, but I prefer the Type D. It just had that real kick of acceleration and this doesn't have. You'll see in the back there's no seats. It's a very different beast to the other one, but it is front engined rear driven, which ultimately means there's nothing back here other than the fuel tank, which is centre mounted anyway, that can take the beating and really destroy your bus from the inside out. So overall a more solid vehicle to use, if slower. The time was slow at 43, but it's a lot better than I was thinking it could be at first with that 1 minute 1 lap time it's at. So there we are with our new quickest car. It's just a shame it missed out on the third lap. If only it had a third lap, maybe it could have done even better than it actually did, but still, it's done an impressive thing here. Although, is it impressive? I mean, we do have a V6 and we do have a decent handling chassis, just see if we can do a drift. And it's perhaps to be expected, because we've not exactly had any sports cars, and this is the closest thing to a sports car, admittedly. So I'm going to park it here for today and say goodbye until another day.